Hello, everybody. Welcome back to D Weekly, where you get your crypto with D Weekly. I'm D, Demetri Ferguson, and welcome to a weekly crypto update show where I try to give you some highlights from this week in the crypto world. What's happened in blockchain? What's the tech? Let's break it on down. So, first, we're going to talk about regulation. Everyone's favorite thing to talk about in crypto, right? We don't need no regulation. But, anyways, right? The United States OCC, all right, says banks may buy, sell, and custody crypto. That's one thing we're going to go into discussion on. We'll go into a little bit of details on. That is the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. All right. Also, in regulatory news, the UK is fast tracking a bill to give the FCA, all right, that is the Financial Conduct Authority, okay, give the Financial Conduct Authority full oversight of exchanges and stablecoins. So, and the ESMA has issued MiCA abuse guidelines. So, insider wallets beware. We're going to go into some global hotspots. Well, really not some, just one kind of major, I want to say like advancement, but it's not directly crypto related as most of these global hot news are, these hotspot news items are, but like it has a little bit to do with crypto. And it is fascinating to see what's going on in that development. We're going to talk about some tech advancements. We know Ethereum had a Pectra update. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Bitcoin Core 27.0. We're actually going to go into quite a lot of detail about that. And we're also going to talk about Solana's Fire Dancer. All right, some things. And for those of you who are like, oh, I just want to, what I want to hear, give me what I want to hear. We're going to talk about a little bit of market news. There's been some price action in the majors. On this show, there's only 3 to 4 majors: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and Litecoin. If anything turns out to be a big deal, we'll move it into the major category. But for now, we're talking about that kind of movement. We will also be talking about adoption news. There has been some waves of adoption news that we need to discuss, but really just one main point. And I hear it from my siblings. Like, what's a stable coin? Should I have stable coins? I sigh, but it is what it is, right? And we'll talk about some things we can look ahead for, things that we're going to touch on. So if you guys are ready, we're going to dig into it. So let's talk about OCC. Let's talk about how the Office of the Comptroller greenlights U.S. banks to buy, sell, and custody crypto. Okay, this is a big deal, right? Whether you think it's a big deal or not everybody can be their own bank. There are a lot of people out there who legitimately need a bank. I'm serious. Like, a bank is still a need in everyday society, right? So why this is important is that there's a 21 permission rule letting national banks and thrifts handle digital asset custody and execution services. All right, but that's out the window, right? So if we take a look here, this new policy directive from the U.S. regulator of national banks says that institutions can also outsource custody and execution to outside parties. So the Office of the Comptroller is further letting bankers off the crypto leash, clarifying through letters Wednesday that banks can buy and sell their customers' crypto assets. So a lot of things are moving in the regulatory space, allowing more people in everyday world to kind of get their hands on crypto in a way that they feel is safe, right? Like those of us that are crypto native, we can be our own bank. We got a nice hardware wallet. We got backups all over the place, but everyday people don't, right? And they need that reassurance, and it looks like that's what they'll be getting. Going back and talking about the UK Treasury, they did publish a draft law to fold exchanges and stablecoins into the FCA perimeter. What the FCA stands for is the Financial Conduct Authority. So this is DP25/1. This is, I guess, how things become laws. They're publishing a discussion paper, or this is the start of the process in the UK. All right. I love my brethren from across the pond, but I have no idea how your legal system works. But we're just going to talk about, I guess, a little bit of the beginning of this discussion paper says that they would like to develop a safe, competitive, and sustainable crypto asset sector. Long-term confidence in crypto assets depends on clear regulation to promote market integrity and appropriate consumer protection, right? We're talking regulatory capture, guys. It's stuff that we don't like. It's stuff that it does supposedly make it easy for the masses, but it makes it difficult for those that really want to do what they want to do with the crypto that they own. I don't know. It's a little shaky to me, but that is what's happening in the UK. Sorry, my UK brethren. Although your crypto may be valuable, the way you use it might be whack. So it's just going to be terrible. Hopefully it'll be good, but let's keep it on moving. The ESMA has issued the first MiCA market abuse guidelines. So last week, if you remember, we did talk about MiCA. The European Securities and Markets Authority, the ESMA, has released guidelines to reshape crypto regulation, right? So more regulation on regulation on regulation. We've heard regulation news for the past, I don't know how many years, 5 to 7 years, and hardcore regulations have hit the entire market. It looks like we're going to get more. Man, oh man, it just kind of looks like the rule book for crypto is finally going to match the market cap. There's going to be so many rules. I think it's going to be so daunting. Regulatory capture, yay for everybody. It's going to be so fun. How many rules we have. It's going to be the best, right? Anyways, let's segue into global moves. You like that segue, everybody? How I just said segue? That's how you know we're going to talk about something different. Global moves. And Nordic Baltic bloc, and this is a global move that we're going to talk about. Okay. Finland, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and Estonia unveiled an offline card payments failover network to harden retail payments against internet outages. This is yet another signal that sovereign payment rails are going to be crypto ready. These initiatives came after communication cables cut in the Baltic Sea. Everyone remembers that. It was totally an innocent thing, just an accident. Finnish banker, Europe needs alternatives to Visa and MasterCard. Oh, I know Visa and MasterCard CEOs don't like that. What do you mean people want to use other ways to pay for stuff? What have we even been doing here? We need our cut. Anyways, Finland plans to reserve bank accounts in case banks cannot operate, right? So what's neat here is that in the crypto world, there was talks even back in like 2014, 2015 of like, hey, can we send these Bitcoin transactions if there is no internet connection? And the answer was absolutely yes. And there was also one company who was trying to create just a whole Bitcoin network, payments network that was aside from the internet, right? It was basically just a bunch of radio towers, and if they're spread out in good amounts, that you're just doing radio, Bitcoin transactions. That was a neat idea. Everybody loved that. Then people were like, let's do satellites. But then people were like, what about buildings? Satellites suck at having buildings in the way. They're like, yeah, that's a thing, right? Anyways, there's been lots of discussion about how to do crypto payments if the internet goes down. So it does look like it's getting out to broader main large entities are looking like they are also wanting to dibble dabble in those thought experiments, right? So good on you, Nordic Baltic area. And moving all right along, some tech advancements. We all know that Ethereum activated, which, by the way, pause for the cause. Moment of silence. Hell of an engineering marvel, again, that Ethereum is able to just hard fork and everybody's like, I'm cool with it. You're cool with it. Let's go. And they keep it on moving. It doubled the blob capacity, adds single transaction smart accounts, and raises the maxing stake to 2048. These are all things we discussed last week. Okay. But it is real now. It is live now. Bitcoin Core 27.0 released. This ships BIP 324, that would be Bitcoin Improvement Proposal 324, encrypted P2P transport and performance boosts. All the GitHub links also will be in the links in the bottom. So first thing, if you are going to upgrade, if you're running an older version, shut it down. Wait until it has completely shut down. Then run the installer on Windows or just copy over application/Bitcoin/Qt. That is a file path on Mac OS, or Bitcoin D/Bitcoin-Qt on Linux. Okay. All right. So let's talk about compatibility. Bitcoin Core is supported and extensively tested on operating systems using the Linux kernel 3.17 plus, Mac OS 11.0 plus, and Windows 7 and newer. Okay. Bitcoin Core also works on most of the Unix-like systems, but is not frequently tested on them. It is not recommended to use Bitcoin Core on unsupported systems, or you're going to lose your money. There's some notable changes here that we need to discuss. Lib Bitcoin consensus, all one word, is deprecated, and it's going to be removed for version 28. This library has existed for nearly 10 years with very little known uptake or impact and has become a maintenance burden. Okay. Underlying functionality does not change between versions, so any users of the library can continue to use the final release indefinitely, with the understanding that Taproot is its final consensus update. In the future, lib Bitcoin kernel will provide a much more useful API that is aware of the UTXO set. Okay, and therefore be able to fully validate transactions and blocks. Mempool.dat compatibility. The mempool.dat file created by a persist mempool or the save mempool RPC will be written in a new format. This new format includes the XORing of transaction contents to mitigate issues where external programs such as antivirus attempt to interpret and potentially modify the file. You can't have that. Can't have Norton getting his grimy fingers all up in your mempool.dat file. That is no good. This new format cannot be read by previous software releases. To follow for a downgrade or temporary setting, use /persists mempool version 1. It has been added to fallback to legacy format. Some P2P and network changes. BIP 324 version 2 transport is now enabled by default, and it remains possible for V2 to be disabled. Okay. Manual connection options. Those are there now. Network adjusted time has been removed from consensus code. It is replaced with unadjusted system time. The warning for a large median time offset, 70 minutes or so, is kept. Okay. Some mempool policy changes. Opt-in topologically restricted until confirmed transactions. They request the application of limits on spending of the unconfirmed outputs, and these restrictions simplify the assessment of incentive compatibility of accepting or replacing topologically restricted until confirmed transactions, thus ensuring any replacements are more profitable for the node and making fee bumping more reliable. There are a lot of other advancements, including some changes to the wallet, some low-level changes like pruning and initialization. Lots of credits. It looks like about 42 people were working on this release. So for those of you that Bitcoin Core, which is millions and millions of people, please get up on these notes here. Let's keep it moving to everyone's favorite major because of the memery. The pure memery of Solana is, no, I'm kidding. Solana's making moves. It's always going to make moves. It's Solana. All right. But Solana's second unique validator client, FireDancer, it's pretty performant. It's looking like it's doing greater than 1 million transactions per second in the test environment. Solana usually handles around 3,000 transactions per second. Solana Foundation Executive Director Dan Albert said there were audible gasps when a room of all validators were shown FireDancer's validator monitor GUI. He said, if I was a betting man, I'd put a few bucks down that tomorrow's update will have to do with FireDancer's performance, right? So Solana is pumping out transactions per second. Solana is also the most centralized of the decentralized protocols. All right, let's talk about some notable price moves from Friday the 4th of May to Friday the 9th of May. Let's talk about it. It's been a week. It's been a week. I don't know about you guys, but I might just go out and buy some steak and shrimp, throw a little bit of butter sauce on it, a little garlic butter on top of it, because it's going to be a good weekend. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, Bitcoin. Last week it started out as $94,316 approximately on the 4th of May. By the 9th of May, the time you're hearing this, Bitcoin, I think it was above 104,000 briefly. But according to this price quote I have here is 102,000. That is a 9.2% increase on the weekly candle there. Okay. Ethereum started last week, $1,808. Today, $2,334. Ladies and gentlemen, and theys, sit back into your seats. That is a 29.1% increase in price. Yeah, if you heard that, that was jaws dropping. Everybody had a good week in Ethereum that has Ethereum, right? Especially for those that have a lot. All right. And Solana wasn't too far behind Ethereum. Ended last week $143.98. Today $172.99. That is a 20.2% jump on the weekly candle. And this is USD we're talking about. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana moving very nice. And as everyone knows, Bitcoin goes up. Most other things go up too. So if you've been in crypto for a while, you know this. Looks like you got a little bit more purchasing power this week than you had last week. Let's get into some adoption news, just to retouch on something that happened last week, just to bring it on home for you that don't quite get it. The Morgan Stanley adding Bitcoin and ETH trading to trade natively, spot trading. That's 7 million brokerage investors within one click of crypto. So a lot more adoption, a lot more people with the capacity to get it. Bitcoin is massively adopted, and we know that now. It's just different than we thought. And an updated news item for adoption purposes. Visa invests in BVNK and expands their stablecoin settlement pilots. So there's going to be an impact to the card network, and it's going to be able to validate USDC and USDP rails for cross-border payouts, right? So that's kind of a big deal for Visa, right? Visa is definitely in the payments game, and they're not going to be left behind, right? And what is perhaps some old news, but it is fun to talk about old news. But this was news that happened, I think, last month. PayPal and Coinbase made a deal that made PYUSD, that is a PayPal stablecoin, fee-free and merchant ready. That opens up 400 million user funnel for stablecoin payments, right? And that gets coupled along with the news that Stripe made an update, and now in Stripe, businesses, merchants, and people alike can hold USDC right in their account. It does all the accounting for them. They can just hold it. Be easy to put it on your balance sheet if you're a business and you accept crypto, or if you want to do specials, right? Like, hey, give 5% off if you pay with USDC, things like that. We will start to see the life of the merchant made a lot easier if they choose to deal in crypto, which is that chicken and egg story everyone remembers. Are the merchants going to start accepting it, and then people are going to pay for it, or people are going to start paying for it, and the merchants have to learn to accept it? It's a chicken and egg situation. Hopefully this helps resolve that chicken and egg situation just a little bit. All right, everyone. That is pretty much all the news. We had some global hotspot news with the Nordic Baltic area, some tech advancements again, a little bit of price news, and adoption keeps beating that drum. There's some SEC roundtable on tokenization news coming. You should hear that next week, as it's happening on May 12th. The MSCI is adding Bitcoin and ETH indices to global benchmarks. And what we're going to do is take a close look at ETH gas prices post Pectra, and take a little gander at watching the BTC ETF inflows. So regulations are opening doors. Devs are shipping code. Clarifies on board. You guys know the deal. Crypto is beating that drum and marching along. Go ahead and hit that bell, like, subscribe. In the comments, if you want, drop your hottest price target, right? Everybody thinks we're in a bull market. You can say, hey, man, what do you think the price is going to be, right? I will see you next Friday. Remember, this was the D Weekly, where you get your crypto with D Weekly. Please join the Discord links in the bottom. Codex, Waku, Logos, Nomos, they are all there. The Hashing It Out Discord is also where you can find Corey, Jesse, and myself just kind of kicking it, talking to everybody who listens to the show and wanted to kick it with us, right? Also, you can find links to these stories in the description if you'd like to see where we're pulling from. So, hey, play the outro.